Welcome along to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. What a weekend of football, what a weekend of sport. Pound for pound, I think it's up there with anything you'll see in 2024. So enjoy it. But I'd like to welcome along Mark O'Hare and Adrian Clark. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey. We've got 4 games in the Premier League: Newcastle versus Tottenham, Bournemouth versus Manchester United, Arsenal versus Aston Villa, and Chelsea versus Everton. Title race, relegation, and European places all up for grabs. Before we get going, if you are listening on the podcast or watching us on YouTube, do hit that like button and subscribe completely for free wherever you're listening. It'd be much appreciated. Those that are coming in for snippets of it, check out the description. Timings are available on all the matches, so you'll be able to go back and forth in the podcast if you just want best bets, little thing like that. And for a full recap of the bets put up here, insights.matchbook.com. Last thing, as I mentioned, big week of sport. Check out our Masters content and also our Grand National content in your podcast feeds right now. Other than that, lads, I think we'll get going because there's a lot of football to discuss. And this game here, Newcastle versus Spurs, we'll get to a price in a second. Newcastle 282, underdogs at Tottenham, against Tottenham, who are 244. The draw is available at 4.2. Both teams to score when I checked it last, and it's still the case, 1.39. That's short. No can be back to 3.35. The Asian handicap line sees Newcastle get a quarter goal head start at 186. Spurs using that as a handicap, and then the total for this one is 3.5. That's a 50-50 split. Mark, that 1.39 both teams to score, yes. I think maybe a Brighton game last season got close to it, but that's got to be as short as it's going to get, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah, I mean, over 3.5 goals is trading as an odds-on shot, so probably no surprise really that both teams to score is so short. But yeah, we're verging on sort of Eredivisie and Bundesliga prices from the last decade or so. Yeah, not massively appealing at all for obvious reasons. But this match does immediately, when you look at it, sort of stand out for goals potential. So it's difficult to sort of say the market is wrong there and try and find an unders-based selection. I think you'd be a brave man to do so this weekend. So if you want to get goals on side, you do have to be a little bit inventive. I'll get to that in a little bit because, you know, I want to hand out some praise to Eddie Howe first and foremost, because I think Newcastle, I would want to keep them on side in this particular match. I think they're lively underdogs, and the opportunity to back them at St. James's Park as an underdog against the Spurs side, who don't travel particularly well, is quite appealing. That's despite the crippling injury crisis they have. So my original selection here was to back Newcastle with a quarter goal start at 184. I mean, that's a great price and a great line for a home side. The reason why I haven't gone full in on that is just because you need the Newcastle win to get a full pay in that scenario, and I can easily see this game ending all square or a home victory. You know, you can't discount Spurs, obviously, but I think at the prices, I want to have Newcastle on side in some way or form. The negatives, Joe Willock and Lewis Hall have already been added to an already lengthy injury crisis. They are down to the bare bones, but I thought they showed real character to batten down the hatches, weather a storm at Fulham last weekend, and come out with a creditable 1-0 victory. Anthony Gordon was lively again. The defence stood pretty strong for the most part, and you know that comes hot off the heels of that game against Everton, where they were minutes away before a penalty went against them to win, and that remarkable turnaround against West Ham. So they're now just 2 points off Man United in 6th, which is quite a remarkable, you know, turnaround really, considering all that's been thrown at them this year. If you look at their record since the winter break in January, they've won 5, drawn 3, and lost just twice. Arsenal and Chelsea, the winners in those 2 defeats. And then look at the home record, just 3 home league losses all season, 2 of which were Liverpool and City. So exclude the top 3, they've gone 9-3-1 in front of their own supporters. And last season, of course, only Arsenal and Liverpool managed to win here. So, you know, regardless of everything that's been chucked at them, Newcastle have remained pretty rock solid at St. James's Park and are a difficult team to beat. Whereas you look at Spurs, and I think I've mentioned this a couple of weeks back or so, but they are the great entertainers. They're all fantastic fun to follow, especially away from home. But, you know, do they really warrant being kind of clear favs at St. James's Park based on what we've seen away from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Clearly they have the talent. Clearly they have the squad capable of going there and getting a result. But they've only won 6 times away from home, 5 of which have been against teams in 12th and below. The only victory above that line was at Aston Villa. That's when Unai Emery went a bit rogue of his tactical setup and it backfired. They've earned some good results on the road, absolutely. But you know, more recently, I think you can question and criticise some of their away performances. Quite disappointing at West Ham, the no-show at Fulham. They're quite lucky to escape with a point at Everton. They were beaten up at Brighton and that's all since Christmas, really. So I'd be wary of backing Spurs at those lines and prices, and more inclined to be with Newcastle, considering they've almost been written off, really. I still think there's a lot to play for. They still believe that they can qualify for Europe. That might go down to down to 8th place in the Premier League based on results elsewhere. So, yeah, the way I'm going to come at this, I'm going to enter the bet builder, and that's to back Newcastle double chance and both teams to score. So I'm going to combine that horribly short price on BTTS, but get Newcastle double chance on side. The only way this bet doesn't win is if Spurs win, or if Newcastle keep a clean sheet, really. And I think it's difficult considering they're probably missing 4 of their first choice back 5, and Spurs have so much firepower going forward. And Tottenham matches just tend to breed goals. There's another price as well if you did want to get involved. Alexander Isak is around 13 to 10 on the bet builder if you include a Newcastle goal. So obviously he has to score. Newcastle have to score for that to land, but you need 2 wagers to get that bet builder to come to life. I think that's a massive price for a guy who scored in 8 of his 10 home starts this season against the Spurs side who ship goals.
Yeah, Isak could be a good fantasy option, Adrian, but I digress. The Mark selection there is that bet builder there. And of course, you full recap of all these guys' bets, incidentally, insights.matchbook.com. Adrian, Mark touched on it there, but the atmosphere in St. James's Park the last couple of games, when they've been at home, despite not really having anything to play for outside the European places, that's been electric. Look at Tottenham, you landed your best bet against Nottingham Forest, but at times they looked vulnerable to the counter-attack. So what are you expecting here?
Yeah, much the same. I haven't got a lot to add really to what Mark said, because Spurs' form has been a bit unconvincing. Obviously, they changed the midfield, didn't they? And that sort of seemed to improve things a little bit. But yeah, it's not going swimmingly, I'd say, for Tottenham at the moment. They're sort of mainly picking up results without looking that secure. And I think if you're a little bit insecure without the ball and you're heading to St. James's Park, you could be in for a tough afternoon. They've obviously got the threats to hurt a diminished Newcastle side. Fullback, they do look a little bit weak at the moment. I didn't know about Hall's injury as well. Obviously, Kraft's been covering at right back. So who's going to play left back? That's going to be really interesting. Might be Dummett, I guess, getting a rare outing with Burn being used at centre half. So yeah, look, Tottenham have only won 2 of their last 9 on the road in the Premier League. So quite why they're that short favourites, I'm not so sure. Maybe it is to do with the injury issues at Newcastle United. Look, both attacks can hurt the other's defence. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I really fancy Isak, as Mark pointed out, to do some damage. Anthony Gordon continues to be in good form. Bruno Guimaraes, what a player he is. He's in good nick at the moment, scoring goals, making chances, all from a sort of defensive position. I mean, he kind of puts the likes of Yves Bissouma to shame, really, with the quality of his all-round play and contribution. So, yeah, I think Newcastle plus a quarter of a goal is fine for me. They have to lose for us to lose money, and I think they're more than good enough to get at least a draw, if not a win here. You go back a long way, like Mark said, Liverpool and City won there, but they were really close games, and they were in with a shot of winning both of those. The rest of the home performances have largely been very, very good, and beaten some good teams, haven't they? This season, they've beaten Arsenal at home, they've beaten Villa, United, West Ham, Chelsea. I mean, Man United and Chelsea, not such good teams, but big names. I don't think this will be an easy game at all for Tottenham. Maybe because I worked on the Fulham Spurs game recently, and it was so bad they got obliterated at Craven Cottage. Maybe that's clouding my judgment. I'm not quite sure, but I think Newcastle plus a quarter is a fair price.
Okay, yeah, we're expecting a decent game nonetheless in the early kickoff slot. Newcastle plus a quarter goal. We'll lock that in as the podcast selection. Currently available at 185. For those that don't usually play in the Asian handicap line, half your bet is on Newcastle draw no bet, and the other half is on Newcastle double chance. Bournemouth versus Manchester United. Saturday night football here. There'll be a lot of sport going on around this, but we will look at the betting. Bournemouth 248 favourites to Manchester United at 282. Isn't that amazing? Draw is 4.0. Both teams to score, yes, 145. Another short price with no 3.15, and we are betting basically to 100% there. The Asian handicap line is a draw no bet market. Bournemouth Favs at 186. The total for this 3.5 unders at 182. Adrian, it's hard to go into a game like this and not back against Manchester United, despite a great result at the weekend. They're conceding so many shots, and then with that, you can just sort of base a bet around that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't really back them at the moment. You can't fully trust them. Sheffield United are the only team that have faced more shots this season in the Premier League. I mean, it's remarkable. They've got the third highest XG against.
Yeah, Adrian, just quick, like, you're a former professional footballer. Is that a case like the defense sitting too deep and teams getting shots away? Is it more complicated than that? You know, it just seems to me, surely you can go into a game and go, we're not going to concede more than 13 shots, for example, as a KBI or something. I don't know.
I think it's a slight lack of organisation. There's definitely a lack of desire from Manchester United fans, players rather, to get tight to opponents, to stop them shooting. They're just not working hard enough. I mean, you look at the just look at the highlights. If you haven't got time to watch full games, look at the highlights of Man United matches. You know, and watch the United players. Watch the centre halves. Watch the central midfielders. Watch how little desire they often show to stop the opposition. It's embarrassing at times. So I mean, that Brentford game was the peak of it, but it happens regularly. And this would be quite tough, won't it, at Bournemouth? Because Bournemouth went to Old Trafford and won 3-0. Bournemouth can be a bit loose with this, can't they? They're not going down. They're not going to qualify for Europe. They can kind of have a little bit of fun with it and attack Manchester United and go for it. Whether that'll be enough to win, I don't know. Because the thing about Manchester United, as we've seen in recent weeks, is they do have a lot of talent, and that talent can produce moments of magic, and they can win games. And their record actually against bottom half sides isn't bad away from home. 6 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss away to bottom half teams. So this is the sort of match they have actually been winning, Manchester United, but can't really get on side with them. I've done a bet builder because it's a tricky one. I don't really want to go with Bournemouth or Manchester United. I do feel goals are almost guaranteed here. Like I said, Bournemouth can be a bit free with it. United can't defend but can score. So yeah, I've done a little cheeky one. Over 2.5, both teams to score, and over 4.5 Bournemouth corners, which might seem a little bit random, but it just takes the odds into a more back, where it takes it to even money. So overs and over 2.5 in both teams to score is remarkably short. So you need something else to pair it with. And I've gone with corners. Bournemouth are actually right up there in terms of having the most corners this season. They're sort of 6th or 7th, I think. They're really high. I think they average 6.2 corners a game. And obviously that's taken into account away games. They're at home here. I'd expect a lot of pressure on United. I think they can easily get over 4 corners. So look, both teams to score and overs has landed in 6 of 7. 6 of the last 7 United away games. Both teams to score has landed in all of those. And Bournemouth have scored in 10 of their last 11 matches, full stop. So fully expect Bournemouth to score. Fully expect United to score. I think it'll be 3 goals at least. And I don't think it's too much of a stretch to expect Bournemouth to apply enough pressure to get over 4 corners.
Okay, yeah, the bet builder available in the UK if you're betting there on the Matchable Betting Exchange. Over 2.5 goals, both teams to score, and over 4.5 Bournemouth corners. Even money for Adrian in this game. Mark, over to you with this one, and pretty similar lines. Like, Bournemouth just seem probably the right side if you're having a bet.
Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating here, I know most people will look and say, well, Man United are outsiders at Bournemouth. That doesn't feel quite right. But the way in which the prices are set up does suggest that United are still the better team of the two. I'd actually take issue with that, but that's a different argument altogether. So, I've had a couple of digs on social media in the past week or so from United fans who've watched these podcasts or listened to them, and a little bit upset that I keep criticising them and opposing them. Which that's understandable. No one likes hearing their sort of team talk down, but I'd like to think I'm quite objective. I've got no horse in the race in the Premier League, so there's no real reason for me to sort of be trying to attack United for the sake of it. But what is that saying? Don't back down, double down. That's the approach for me for today. I'm going to attack United again for a multitude of reasons, but I'll keep it footballing based, really. It's just complete chaos. How they've managed to escape from 2 matches against Liverpool with 2 points is anyone's guess, really. We talk about chaos. It's more like a circus at times, really. Fantastic fun for us neutrals. The Chelsea game on Thursday night was tremendous, really. But how can you trust them to make you money consistently? In the price at these kind of prices. The Liverpool game, especially in the first half, they're absolutely battered at Old Trafford, and that's now 22 shots or more conceded in 8 of the last 9 Premier League games, and 8 corners or more conceded in 9 of the last 10. Which is horrifying, really. They're going to miss out in the Champions League. They're already on course to take 15 fewer league points than last season. And you know what? My expected points model now has them 17th in the Premier League, only above the bottom 3, which is just astonishing, really. The XG process is 16th. Just cannot put into words how bad that is based on expectations for a club of United stature, really. So it's quite easy to put the boot in and very difficult to trust them as a betting proposition. And for me, that applies to this game on Saturday. I think a home match against Liverpool, you're always likely to get a bit of extra out of those players, out of the club, out of the fans. Going away to Bournemouth, does this have echoes of going away to Brentford? I do think they're a little bit vulnerable if they're not at it. I thought Bournemouth were actually pretty good at Luton last week, despite losing, especially in the first half. Opened them up many times, failed to take their chances, and paid for it in the second half. But they'll be up for this. That's why I politely disagree with Adrian, really. I don't think they will be freewheeling. I think if you listen to Iraola and you listen to the club, they are very determined to finish the season strongly. They only require 6 points from their remaining fixtures to better their highest ever Premier League points tally, and that is a feat that they're really trying hard to achieve. And if they did so, it would be amazing considering the start that they made. And actually, if you exclude the start that they made up until mid-October and look at the results since then, when their form turned for the better, Bournemouth would be 6th in the Premier League, 2 points off Spurs with the game in hand and 4 points better off than Manchester United. If you look at the last 16 Premier League games, Bournemouth are ranked 5th on expected points, Manchester United 18th. So, I think there's a number of reasons. And while Europe looks beyond them, it is still only a 6-point gap to 8th. And that could be a European qualification place with 7 games to play. So I think Bournemouth, it's quite easy to rouse yourself for a home game against Manchester United under the lights with the fans behind you. So, yeah, I'm going to give them a shot here at draw no bet, 1.86. Bournemouth draw no bet, that is.
Yep, I'm happy to follow you in with that, Mark. Bournemouth 186 currently draw no bet is the podcast selection as well. We'll move on to a big game here. Sunday primetime slot, Arsenal versus Aston Villa. And take a look at the betting that we have on matchbook.com. And this has surprised a lot of people I talk to. Everyone knows how good a side Arsenal are, but are surprised by this Villa price. So we will discuss. Arsenal 1.3, Villa 12.0. That is the best on the odds checker grid and has drifted out since this morning. So someone's nibbling at Arsenal. The draw is 6.6. Both teams to score. Much more normal market here, I guess. Yes, is in and around 1.87, 1.9. The Asian handicap line sees Villa get a 1 3/4 goal head start at the Emirates. The goal line here, 3.5. Mark, over to you. Just on that Villa price, I guess a lot of it is to do with the injuries that are only just starting to come back into that Villa side, but also they are in Conference League action tonight. 2-day rest advantage for Arsenal. It's definitely going to help them on Sunday.
Yeah, it will. But I think those prices are more driven by the underlying data, which Arsenal's in 2024 and across the season has been the strongest, but this calendar year in particular has been off the charts good. They're going off prices now similar to Man City in their pomp. And I think it is justified based on what we've seen. So Arsenal went off as 165 favourites against Bayern on Tuesday, 151 favourites at Brighton last weekend. When they went to the Etihad recently, City went off their biggest home price in the Premier League for a good 6 years or so. So, they say defences win you titles, and the Gunners have been extraordinarily good this calendar year. If you look at the expected goals figures, just 4.98 XG against in 2024. City are at 12.28, Liverpool at 14.27. So a huge difference between themselves and their title rivals. They've also allowed just 10 shots on target in 8. That includes games against both title rivals as well. So when you're allowing less than 1.5 shots on target per game, yet scoring at a rate of almost 3.5 per game, just utter domination. So clearly they're going to be well fancied. However, I do think, despite sort of giving Arsenal plenty of praise for those defensive figures, I think this match being sandwiched between the buying games perhaps gives us a little wriggle room to believe that Villa could cause them a couple of problems at the Etihad. I thought Arsenal did look nervous and jittery at times, quite uncharacteristic at moments against Bayern Munich in midweek, and looked threatened by the pace on the counter-attack. And that's Villa's game, really. That's where they excel, with the transitions, the skill, the trickery, the speed on the break, and their ability to get on the score sheet. So I felt there was a chance to go in again on a regular bet we've had across the last couple of years, which is to back Arsenal to win and both teams to score, which gives us an enormous increase on Arsenal at 130 to 284. And I'm not sure the market's completely calibrated this correctly, because Arsenal 130 to win, BTTS is offered at 187. So this isn't the correct way to price things. But if you were just to multiply those two numbers together, you'd be getting closer to 2.4 than 2.84, which is being offered. And that's obviously a whole unit and more bigger than the BTTS price. So the market is saying both teams to score is more likely than unlikely to happen, and Arsenal are very likely to win this game. So why are we not combining the two and getting a huge price of 284 based on Arsenal just to win at 130? It's just an obvious play for me here, really. For all their highlights this calendar year, they have only stopped Luton and Palace from scoring in the last 6 Emirates games, and this particular bet has paid out in 7 of 12 of Arsenal's home victories this season. They've only managed 5 clean sheets in 15 at home. And if you chuck in Villa scoring in 28 to 32 Premier League games, Watkins being fit and available, there's more chance for me of this landing than perhaps the implied percentage chance of 35%, as the market suggests. So happy to go with that. I did think Villa were a huge price. I did look at the handicap start there, but at the minute, I'm a bit concerned defensively about them. 16 goals conceded and 7. And it's not just shipping goals, it's shipping goals in quick succession as well, which has become a bit more of a regular thing for Villa at the moment. So, yeah, I'm still all in on Arsenal.
Okay. Arsenal, both teams to score 282. Does seem a big price on paper. But, Adrian, I think given the defensive frailties Arsenal did show against Bayern Munich for the first time in a while, I wouldn't quite agree that they were necessarily jittery against City. I would be more concerned about the Bayern defending. That maybe there'd be more focus here, being defensively solid, and maybe win this game 1-2-0.
Yeah, 1 or 2 lessons you'd like to think might have been learned from that, because Mark's right, and I said exactly the same on the live show that I worked on for the Bayern game. I said, well, this is good practice for Villa, because that stylistically they'll come with the same approach. It'll all be about those wingers breaking at Arsenal at pace on the counter attack, and Arsenal have to be a little bit more compact and robust in the way that they handle them. All of that said, I know that they hit the post late on, but Bayern scored from their only 2 shots on target, one of which was a penalty. So David Raya still didn't really have anything to do. And this was a game where, Bayern played well and where Arsenal were unusually open. So it's going to be tough for Villa to score. I think this might be a tight game. I'm a little bit nervy about it, I've got to say, because it's in between the Champions League games. And I think that Arsenal would have been a little bit unsettled by the way that, they were opened up at times by Bayern. So I think they'll be slightly more pragmatic. I think there'll be a little bit of rotation again. I think there has to be in between those 2 ties. I don't know who's going to sit it out, but I think there might be 1 or 2. And it's Unai Emery, of course, coming back to Emirates Stadium. And Unai loves a game plan. We know that. I'll never forget that Villarreal game. I think it was it in lockdown? I think it might have been, where they in the semi-final of the Europa, and they came and absolutely shut down Arsenal. And that will be the sort of game plan, for this one, I'm sure. It's a better Arsenal, and Villa are very depleted, so it might not be as easy for Emery to negate Arsenal, but he has done it before, and I think he'll try to do it again. I think Douglas Luiz, his suspension is big, because he's almost 2 players rolled into one for Villa. So I think that's a big factor. No Luiz, no Camara down the middle of the pitch leaves them a little bit light, doesn't it? So look, I think Arsenal will win the game, but I don't think it's going to be a landslide. I think it might be a bit of a grind. I'm going to go with Arsenal and under 3.5. 7 of Arsenal's 15 home games in the Premier League have gone under 3.5. So it's not always been a goal fest. 9 of 16 Villa away games have gone under 3.5 as well. And of course, obviously, Arsenal found it hard to score at Villa Park earlier on the season. Losing 1-0, created loads of chances, but ultimately lost the game. So yeah, I think this could be an awkward one for Arsenal, but ultimately I think they will navigate it in a professional manner. But I don't see Emery taking that many risks with his team. Certainly not with so many central midfielders out. So I think they might be a bit more pragmatic than usual and make it tough for Arsenal.
Okay. I'm tend to side with Adrian on the type of game. It's going to be Arsenal under 3.5 goals. The podcast selection 242 marks, though, looks a big price on paper. Both teams to score, yes, coupled with the Arsenal win 282. And incidentally, those that like these sort of stats, Arsenal after Champions League games this season, 6 wins, 2 draws. This is a surprise. Manchester City after Champions League. Does anyone know this record this season? 2 wins, 5 draws, 1 defeat after Champions League games. I found that stat absolutely extraordinary.
Come on, Luton.
Come on, Luton. Come on, Luton Town. 3 o'clock kickoff at the Etihad. Let's go. Let's move on. Monday Night Football. Chelsea versus Everton. Chelsea priced again like they're a good team, but look, there's some good players, I guess. Chelsea 171 favourites. Everton 5.2. The draw is 4.3. Both teams to score, yes, in and around 1.5, 1.6 at the moment. The Asian handicap line, Everton getting a 3/4 goal head start. The goal line here, Adrian, 2.5. I love your bet builder, but we'll come to that in a second. Chelsea, I mean, they're winning 2-1 away to Sheffield United. I know Cole Palmer's played a lot of football. They take him off. They take a couple other big players off. And then they draw the game 2-2. It just sort of sums up their season.
Oh, it's a disaster of a result, wasn't it? It was a bit embarrassing, if I'm honest. I mean, they shouldn't be letting the point slip there. I don't really know what they're playing at. The Chelsea are very much like Manchester United, aren't they? They're very hard to pin down. You don't rate them really because there's so many flaws there, but they often get results, and they are unbeaten actually in their last 7 Premier League games. 4 of them draws, but they are unbeaten. That's the longest run they've had since the winter of 2021, believe it or not. So they're in quite good shape, I guess. But do you want to go in on Chelsea? Not really. Everton, yeah, they beat Burnley. That was a vital result for them, but they're winless in their last 28 away league games against Chelsea. This isn't a fixture that they tend to get anything out of, Everton, and you wonder where the goals are gonna come from. Obviously, Chelsea aren't defending well, but back at Everton to score feels a bit wrong to me, especially away from home. I can see them getting blanked by most teams, if not Chelsea. But so rather than betting on who's going to win this game, I'm trying to think about what sort of game it might be, and I do think that Chelsea have got the propensity to score goals in most of their matches. A lot of it relies on Cole Palmer. He's been involved in 25 goals in his last 22 Premier League games. He scored 16. I think he's having a brilliant season. He scored in 4 of his last 5 matches as well, Cole Palmer. So I'm going to stick him in. I'm going to stick Cole into the old bet builder to score any time and just match it up with over 1.5 goals. So we only need 2 goals in the match. I think Chelsea are more than capable of scoring 2 goals at home to Everton on their own, and for Cole Palmer to score, and that comes in at a nice 2.25 rather than having to fret over whether Chelsea can do the business or not. You just got to hope for a couple of goals and for Palmer to be among the scorers. So that's where I'm going. Over 1.5 has landed in 26 of 30 Chelsea matches this season, which is pretty strong odds. So if you fancy going in on that and adding Cole Palmer, we get odds against.
Okay, over 1.5 goals. Cole Palmer to score 5-4 or 2.25 currently on Matchbook. Mark, same sort of question to you. Chelsea, do you want to be siding with them at these sort of prices, or how are you going about trying to figure out a bet here on Monday Night Football?
Horrible game to try and find a betting angle from.
Thanks for picking it, Adrian, is what Mark's saying there.
I picked it without even thinking of a betting angle, I'll be honest. I just thought it's kind of an interesting game. It's a Monday night game. Let's cover it because, it's a big one for Everton, that's for sure. But once I came to sort of thinking about analysing it, I was of the same mindset of Mark. what have I done here? Because I haven't got a clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, I kind of trust them more in the big games against the big teams. You know, we've seen them pull out some performances. You think of away at the Etihad, for example, when they hosted Arsenal earlier in the season. They have got the players who can step up, but there's a complacency, almost a bordering on arrogance when they play some of the lesser lights. We saw that against Burnley at Stamford Bridge, conceding 18 shots against 10 men for nearly an hour. We saw it at Sheffield United last Sunday when they allowed the worst team in the Premier League to have double the number of shots on target than Chelsea and restrict Chelsea to just 0.4 XG and 3 shots in the box. Just appalling figures. Yet they still managed to score at least twice, and that's now occurred in 7 of their last 8, as well as 8 of their last 10 at Stamford Bridge. The issue really is defensively, where Chelsea have kept just 2 clean sheets since early October. So 15 of the last 19 Premier League matches have seen both sides score. And you look at the defence that started at Bramall Lane. Bear in mind that this club has spent around £1 billion on new players. You had Georgi Petkovic in goal, Dazassi, Trevor Chalobah, who presumably is going to be sold this summer because he's an academy graduate, and Thiago Silva, who turns 40 in September and is still their best fit available centre-half. Doesn't fill you with confidence if you're backing Chelsea to 0 here. So, Everton were pretty grubby in their winning against Burnley, a dreadful game. But it was a 6-pointer and they got the victory. And clearly Dominic Calvert-Lewin, however they go in, doesn't really matter to him. He's now got 2 and 2, so his confidence is going to be back up again. And it's a must-win or a must-not-lose game for Everton. So I think they've got the physicality and can trouble Chelsea in moments, whether it's just set pieces or playing off Calvert-Lewin. I just can't trust this Chelsea team whatsoever. So, yeah, not a strong selection by any stretch, and probably not a selection I would advise. But just rummaging around the bet builder, I came across Chelsea over 1.5 goals and BTTS at 2.15. It just fits the recent trends for Chelsea, but not a strong play whatsoever.
Well, marginally stronger play will lock in Adrian's selection over 1.5 goals and Cole Palmer to score. Incidentally, if you are looking for a differential in captain in FPL this week, I think Cole Palmer might get 1 or 2 on Monday Night Football, and Haaland's minutes might be limited against Luton with the Champions League coming up. Those bets will be recapped on insights.matchbook.com, where you can find all our content, including Masters Grand National content this week. Adrian, it's EFL time. Let's go. I think it's been a brilliant EFL season across all 3 of the leagues. A couple of selections here to go to war with it once again.
Yeah, a couple stood out to me. It has been brilliant across all the leagues, actually, but particularly the Championship. The promotion race is thrilling, and so is the relegation race. So if anyone out there doesn't get a chance to watch much Championship football, now's the time to tune in, because pretty much every match will matter between now and the end of the season. Southampton against Watford is one that actually probably matters less than a lot of others. Southampton look nailed on for the playoffs. Watford are very much mid-table. But yeah, I'm looking at the prices here, and I'm just thinking Watford are too long, in my opinion. They go away to St Mary's, and you think, okay, Southampton gunning for promotion. You understand why they're really, really short for the game, but it's kind of dismissing Watford's recent form, and the recent form has coincided with Tom Cleverley. Obviously, you'll all remember him as the player. Well, he's the interim manager, and they've been really, really solid, and the players have responded to Tom Cleverley. Last night, they went to Ipswich, free score in Ipswich Town, and held them to a goalless draw, and were good value for it. Matched Ipswich for long periods, had moments of threat themselves, and didn't give up that many clear-cut opportunities. So they are super organised. Of late, across the 4 games since Cleverley's been there, they've won at Birmingham 1-0. They've drawn at home to Leeds 2-2. Went to West Brom, drew 2-2. And they've had 0-0s against Preston and Ipswich. Two strong teams, Preston and Ipswich, where they've not conceded. So I don't think they're going to get smashed at St Mary's by any chance, but you can get Watford plus 1.5 goals at 1.73. It's not a big price, but if you want to be a bit braver, you could go with 1.25 or even +1. In any of these eventualities, Southampton need to win the game by 2 clear goals, and that's something they've only done twice in their last 10 games. Southampton, their form is patchy. They're definitely not playing anywhere near as well as they were earlier on in the campaign when they were on this long unbeaten run. And I think the edge has gone a little bit for them because I think they know that top two, the game is up. So for me, I think Watford can go to Southampton and be super competitive. I just don't see them losing by 2 or more goals. So Watford plus 1.5.
Okay, 173 the price on that. Second selection here, Adrian. If people are looking around on Grand National Day for maybe a football accumulator and they're looking on the Match with Betting Exchange for a couple of shorties to go in League Two, what two shorties should they be looking at?
Yeah, and there's something really on this as well in League Two. A little bit of business could be decided at the weekend. A victory for Stockport at home to Morecambe will send them up, most likely as champions. And Wrexham entertain Forest Green, who are battling to survive in the EFL. They're in massive trouble, Forest Green. Or a win for Wrexham could also send them up automatically at the weekend if MK Dons, I think, fail to beat Mansfield, which is a tough game for them. So there's a lot riding on it. These are two heavy home favourites with the sort of, the goal of the season within reach for them, and I expect them to do it. And you can double up here and get 1.9, which I think is more than reasonable. Morecambe, who travelled to Stockport, have hit the wall lately. They've lost 6 of their last 8 games. Stockport, they've timed their run to absolute perfection. They've had a few wobbles this season, but they've lost the least games. They score the most goals. They concede the fewest. They're the best team in League Two, and they come into this having won 5 in a row. I don't expect them to blow it at home to Morecambe. That would be a massive shock. So I'm pretty confident on them. And we know about Wrexham, at home at the Racecourse Ground, they're very, very strong. They're top of the home form table in League Two. Wrexham, they've won 15 of 21 games. They've scored at least twice in 17 of 21 home games. And if they score twice here, I don't think Forest Green are getting anything out of the game. And this is a Forest Green team that have lost 5 of their last 6 matches. Wrexham, for what it's worth, have won 4 of their last 5. So they've hit form at just the right time of the season to get the job done. So yeah, I'm back in Stockport and Wrexham to potentially get promoted this weekend with what looks like 2 routine home victories. Okay,
we'll lock that in at 1.9. Interesting. And the other bet, Watford plus 1.5, 173 for Adrian in the EFL this weekend. Mark, over to Serie A and Bologna. Thiago Motta, he's been linked with a lot of big jobs. He's done unbelievable this season.
Yeah, incredible, really, to think that Bologna have got a decent chance of qualifying for the Champions League next season. They're still sat in 4th, only 4 points off Juventus, I think, in 3rd. But Roma's great form has meant they have now moved to within 3 points of Bologna. So the pressure is on to continue their good form. They've won 8 of the last 10 since February, home or away, and keeping 6 clean sheets in that sample too. So their form is excellent. Motta's done brilliantly, transforming a number of players and the system and the approach at Bologna in his time there. And he's built most of their success on an incredible home form. Only Inter Milan, the runaway league leaders, have bettered Bologna's home record this season, which reads 12-2-2 in front of their own supporters. But one of those defeats was against Milan on the opening day. The other was against Inter. So exclude the top 2, and they've got 12 wins from 14 home games this season, 14 unbeaten home games, and conceded just 5 goals in that same sample as well. So they're very strong. Joshua Zirkzee is fit and available, which is a big boost up in forward areas. He is being chased by a number of big clubs right now too. And they're playing a Monza side who have done very well to settle into mid-table, never been in danger of going down, but never really troubling the European places either. And they tend to be relatively predictable because they're very business-like against the bottom half, but very poor when stepping up in class. So they're 11th. They've taken 35 of their 42 points against the bottom half, losing just once. But against the top half, they've gone 1-4-10, which includes 7 winless away games, 5 defeats in that 7-game sample, and just the 1 goal as well on the road. So if you look at their record since the start of March, they've played 3 top half teams, Roma, Napoli, and Torino. They've lost all 3 of those. So quite happy to have Bologna on side here, as we have done a few times this season. We'll include under 4.5 goals to get the price to 187. That's occurred just once in Bologna's matches all season. So Bologna to win 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1, or 3-1.
Okay, 1.87 as Mark said. We'll move on to long shots, a section, a profitable section on both the Champions League and Premier League weekend football podcasts. Another winner up there, Adrian. So we'll start with you, Luton, and over 2.5 goals. So you can revel in that and tell us what your long shot is this week.
Yeah, chuffed for that. I mean, yeah, we had to wait until injury time, didn't we, to get it? But yeah, that was pretty sweet, and it was sweet for Luton as well, wasn't it? Because it puts them right in the mix to avoid relegation. So well done to them. Yeah, I've got a similar one here. I'm going to go with Preston and both teams to score at home to Norwich in the Championship. It's a nice price of 5.9. Obviously, Preston are at home to Norwich, playoff chasing. Well, they're both playoff chasing. And Norwich are in the playoffs, looking to protect their position. And Preston, unbelievably, are still battling away. And a win here would shake things up massively and put them in the frame to maybe nick Norwich's spot come the end of the season. So they'll be highly motivated here, Preston North End. And they have a really good home record against strong teams in the Championship this season. They've beaten Ipswich 3-2. They've beaten Leeds 2-1. They drew 2-2 with Southampton. They beat Coventry 3-2. Beat Middlesbrough 2-1. They're good enough to beat Norwich for sure. A Norwich team, by the way, that hasn't beaten anyone in the top 9 away from home all season. Their best work has absolutely been at Carrow Road. In midweek, they were leading against Sheffield Wednesday, playing very well, and then they blew it. It was 2-2 in the end, 2 goals from corners. That might have unsettled, didn't it? It might have given Preston 1 or 2 ideas ahead of the game, because the goalkeeper looked wholly uncomfortable dealing with them. So yeah, I think Preston offer good value here, but so too does both teams to score. I read out those score lines, didn't I? All high-scoring games, all games where Preston conceded, and at Deepdale they've let in. Both teams to score has landed in 15 of 21 matches at Deepdale this season. That's a 71% strike rate. So yeah, Norwich certainly better going forward than they are at the back. More than capable of scoring there, but will they win the game? I'm not convinced. They haven't won, like I said, against the top 9 side away from home. So Preston and both teams to score 5.9. I reckon that's a decent long shot.
Okay, we'll lock it in. 5.9 Preston and both teams to score. Over to you, Mark. It's an interesting play here. Villarreal.
Yeah, so my long shot this week isn't really backed up by much data or form, really. It's very much circumstantial, and that's to be with Villarreal at 5.0 away at Athletic Club, which game is taking place on Sunday. Traditionally, Athletic Club going to San Mamés is one of the most difficult away days in La Liga. They've lost just once at home all season. That was against Real Madrid. They're still chasing a Champions League qualification place too. So I can understand people running a mile to get involved in this game. However, last weekend, Athletic Club won the Copa del Rey. They'd lost 6 previous Copa del Rey finals before eventually getting their first victory in this competition for 40 years. They won on penalties against Real Mallorca. Now, Athletic Club have a huge history, really, with the Copa del Rey. They absolutely love the competition. They are the second highest winners of the competition behind Barcelona in history. It's something they prioritize and put a lot of hard work into. And so to get their first title since 1984, understandably, they've gone a bit mad celebrating. So rumored to be around 100,000 fans went down to Seville, obviously the majority without tickets, but just to be there for the occasion. They celebrated long into the night. And on Tuesday, you may have seen on social media that a lot of the athletic squad went into Bilbao to celebrate with the fans who were still out on the streets enjoying themselves. They were drinking, partying, singing. And you might think, well, okay, that's Tuesday. This game's not till Sunday. Perhaps they're starting to sort of wind down. That's not necessarily the case, because we're speaking on Thursday. And on Thursday, Athletic are about to undergo their famous Garbara barge, which is basically they head down in this big boat down the river in Bilbao and enjoy a kind of unique version of a street parade, really, where they will be drinking, partying, celebrating with the supporters. It's something very historic they do with the city. And yeah, I guess, with a lot of your big name players out celebrating, enjoying themselves, on Thursday. Are they going to be in tip-top condition ahead of a Sunday match? I'm not so sure. I do believe they prioritise the cup competitions. They still want to qualify for the Champions League, obviously, but the price at the minute around Athletic 1.7 to win the game doesn't really take into account what's been going on over the past few days. So for me, it gives an opportunity to oppose them. So I'm going to be brave and back Villarreal just to win at 5.0. A great price for a team on the up under Marcelino, just 1 defeat in 10 in La Liga. And their last 4 away results are impressive. They've won at Barcelona, they drew at Alaves, they won at Real Sociedad, and they won at Real Betis. If they can do that at Barca, Betis, and Sociedad, no reason why they can't do it against a potentially tired, mentally, physically, or hungover Athletic Club side.
We've had worse angles than this, Mark, let me tell you. We had something similar last year. I can't remember what league, and took a bit of advantage of that for sure. So, yeah, happy to lock in Villarreal at 5.0 in our long shots.
The thing is about footballers these days as well, Mark, is that they don't drink as much as they used to, so they can't handle it. So they're more likely to be hungover and affected by a drink than they would have been in years gone by. So
it's going to hit them like it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks tomorrow morning for sure. Best bet time, Adrian. You've got one in the Premier League and in the Premier League title race, no less, and Liverpool at home to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, look, it's very, very similar to Mark's reasoning behind Arsenal and both teams to score against Aston Villa. The jump is incredible. Liverpool, last time I looked, were priced up at 1.23 to beat Crystal Palace at home. No real surprise there because you know how formidable they are on Merseyside. But that 1.23 turns into 2.72 if you think Palace might nick a goal during the game. And I do. I think they might nick a goal because, you know, they've scored in 13 of 16 away games this season, Crystal Palace. They're not the sort of side that blanks that often on the road. They're well suited to playing on the counter. Eze and Elise are both fit again, finally. You've got Mateta and Edouard also in decent enough form as well. So Palace have the personnel to go to Anfield and maybe rattle a few cages and to potentially score goals. And, you know, just think about Liverpool this season. As brilliant as they've not been secure, have they, at any real time? They've not kept a clean sheet. Wait for this. In any of their last 8 at Anfield. You have to go all the way back to 1999 for a longer run without a clean sheet at Anfield. So, yeah, not that secure at the back at all. According to XG, whether you want to take into account this or not, but, you know, they've conceded 7 goals fewer than expected this season. I think they've ridden their luck a little bit with obviously the goalkeepers making big saves. So, and they've been slow starters, haven't they, Liverpool? At home as well. So I think Palace can score in the game. Most teams have scored there this season. They've conceded in 11 of 16 home games. They've let in goals, Liverpool, which is remarkable given how brilliant they've been and how many points they've amassed. They very rarely keep clean sheets at home. Sheffield United scored there, Burnley scored there, Luton scored there. I think Palace with Eze and Elise can score there too, but I don't think they'll win. I think Liverpool will get the job done. So, yeah, it's a nice price. And that's the reason I've picked it as best bet, because I just think it represents the best value across the programme this weekend from what I could see. 2.72 on Liverpool and both teams to score.
Okay, yeah, big price jump there from the win, 272 currently on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. And the final bet of the card, Mark, over to you in Switzerland. Young Boys going for their title here, 1.8 at home.
Yeah, they've won 5 of the last 6 titles in Switzerland, looking for back-to-back title victories. They're 5 points clear, I think, at the top of the Swiss Super League, but they have stuttered a bit this calendar year or since returning from the winter break, so much so that in one particular week in March, they lost 3 games, 2 in the league and 1 in the cup, and that saw Raphael Vicky sacked, and they promoted the under-21 coach into the top position, saying they needed a fresh approach, fresh energy for the run-in. The form isn't still great, 2 wins in 5. However, if you look at the home results in that 5-game sample, 3-1 and 5-0 thrashing of Grasshoppers and Basel means they tend to be, you know, they always are rock-solid operators in Bern, and you can see that in their overall results this season. In the Super League, 12 wins from 15 as hosts. They scored 2.67 goals per game on home soil. They've kept 7 clean sheets in 15, shipping just 9 times. And for that reason, I just think if you're that strong at home and you're playing a mid-table side in Switzerland, Young Boys shouldn't really be around 1.8 to win this game. Too big for me. Earlier this season, they hosted Luzerne, who they play this weekend, and they smashed them up 6-1 here in Bern. So 1.8 just looks too big to miss out on. Luzerne are unbeaten in 4, but they are mid-table and they are very poor travellers. 8 defeats in 15 away days. 5 defeats in 8 winless trips to the top half. And if you look at those 8 games against the top half away from home, they're averaging about 18 shots conceded per game as well. Plus, not that I take too much notice to this, but their head-to-head record away at Young Boys is horrific. Since 2016, they've lost 13 of 16 visits, conceding 49 goals.
Okay, locked in. Best bet, Young Boys at home, 1.8. Before we go, Mark, there was a question on the relegation in the Championship. I think QPR around 17.0 now to get relegated. Looks like they're staying up. Any opinion, both either ends of the table, who's playing well at the moment in the outrights, because they're so close together, even though there's only a few games left.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Rangers are safe yet. 4 points clear with 4 games to go. We've got a difficult run in. All 4 teams are either in the playoffs or chasing the title. It's going to be quite difficult from here. So dropping points at Plymouth in midweek was a body blow. The market makes Plymouth favs, and that's kind of understandable considering their nosedive since Schumacher left, and Foster obviously had a bit of a disaster class in charge, but they look pretty poor to me in midweek. But considering they're sort of 2 points above Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday, I'm not sure I could make them favs. So the team who stand out is pretty late to me. I'm sure Adrian will have an opinion too, but it's Blackburn, really. Expected more since Eustace took over. Midweek getting slammed 5-0 at Bristol City. Rovers fans are up in arms, really, about the style of play and the way in which they're going about their business. They were expecting a lot better from Eustace, really. And if you look at their run-in, very difficult as well. Leeds and Leicester, I think they've got 1 6-pointer against a fellow relegation side, but apart from that, it's difficult. And they're a bigger price. I think they're about 7s to go down. I think with a 3-point cushion at the moment ahead of the relegation zone. Goal difference could play a huge part here too, though. Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday with quite considerably worse goal difference figures compared to the rest. Stoke would be next worst there, but that's where Plymouth, possibly QPR and Blackburn might have an extra point on their side.
Yeah, Adrian, any thoughts either promotion or relegation?
So hard. Yeah, I think Huddersfield will go, and Plymouth personally. So yeah, if they're at backable prices, go for it potentially. But Birmingham are in trouble as well. So they've got a tough one. I think with Blackburn, smashed by Bristol City, but they were superb against Southampton. Drew, went to Sunderland, scored 5 and won recently. So a little bit erratic, I'd say, from Rovers. I think they'll have enough to survive personally. In terms of going up, I said from a while back that I thought Leeds might be the ones to slip out, which went against the grain of form. That's kind of how it's panned out in recent weeks, but who knows whether that will continue? But because they're all looking really, really nervous.
Yeah,
I don't think
they don't want to go. No one wants to.
I don't think you can hang your hat on any of the 3 at the minute. So I think avoid the bet maybe and just enjoy the action because it's
still got my Ipswich ticket. Ipswich ticket.
And while we're blowing trumpets here, Mark, Dominic Solanke, he's good for a goal against United. We'll need 2 often for top goal scorer because everyone's scoring at this stage. But
yeah, no comment on Solanke. I've already sort of written that one off. But Ipswich, come on.
Best of luck. What price did you get on Ipswich start of the season?
16s, not the greatest for a newly promoted club, but they were always going to go well.
Yeah, it was tipped up on this podcast as well. My thanks to Mark and Adrian. Big weekend of sport. Check out Matchbook Insights, your one-stop shop for all tips throughout the Grand National, Masters, and of course the Premier League action. Will be back around 2:30 on YouTube on Monday with Mark and Adrian, and of course Miguel, to preview what is going to be an absolutely sensational second legs of the Champions League quarter-finals. Until then, enjoy the weekend sport. We will chat to you on Monday. Bye-bye.